back to our discussion on the Brahms opus 122 chorale preludes. Today we're looking at the second prelude in the set, Herzliebster Jesu. This is a Passiontide chorale. It's a hymn which is still in the hymn book today and still widely sung. It's an enormously anguished hymn asking what Jesus did to deserve the sufferings of the crucifixion. There are, I think, 3 what questions just in the first 4 lines, and there's a good sprinkling of achs and ohs. So the hymn as a whole is a very intense text, which gets an appropriately anguished and intense chorale prelude from Brahms. So there's this pervasive sighing figuration, which we can actually do something with. I think we need really to focus on this da-dee-dam, da-dee-dam kind of figuration all the way through. And there is intense chromaticism. And there are these falling, diminished intervals, which remind us rather of the Bach and Buxtehude settings of Durch Adams Fall, which was another hymn which laments the consequences of the introduction of sin into the world. So this really is Brahms at his best for the organ, at his most Brahmsian almost, and it's really music to make the most out of. Brahms writes adagio as the tempo indication. This, remember, is one of only 2 chorale preludes in the set which have a tempo indication at all, and both urge restraint in terms of tempo. So I think really, since Brahms is so sparing with his tempo indications, when he first writes adagio, we really need to take it seriously. If we're in any doubt between 2 opposing tempi, then we should probably opt for the slower one and really take our time over this. The other prelude which has a tempo indication is O wie selig, which is molto moderato. And interestingly, when I was talking about that particular prelude, I very stupidly said that that was the only place in Brahms' organ music where he writes a crescendo. Now, I should have learnt by now to actually write a script rather than ad-libbing these comments. I completely forgot at the time that there is also a crescendo in this piece here. Interesting that the 2 which have a tempo indication and are marked particularly to hold back are the 2 which require a crescendo and therefore a swell box. But in any event, the comments which I made there in the episode on O wie selig about the swell box in organs of Brahms's time hold true also here. The swell box was a relatively recent introduction into German organs and was still rather rare, actually, in Brahms's lifetime. And in any event, on any organ, I think, that was built during Brahms's lifetime, the swell division will be quieter than the other divisions on the organ. So a swell is nothing like the kind of big noise full swell that we associate with the early 20th century Romantic organ. The stops on a swell division would be almost exclusively 8-foot stops and relatively quiet 8-foot stops. If there was a reed, it would probably only be an oboe or something. Where Brahms is writing very clearly in this particular piece for a swell division, for a crescendo, then we don't want to be crescendoing too much. We don't want to be having as our basis a really big swell noise. Some editors suggest a return to the first manual at bar, 28? I'm not proposing to do that today. I'm going to stick with what is literally on the page. It may well be that an unintended return to the first manual has accidentally been missed out in the score. I really can't say. But from my point of view, I think that this hymn is anguished and reflective. It certainly doesn't want to go out in a blaze of glory. So its conclusion is a deeply introspective and rather gloomy one of looking into ourselves So I'm going to stick with the quieter manual all the way through from where it says P.